Thank you for tuning into the Hacking the Patriarchy podcast. I'm your fervent feminist host, Raven O'Neill, and I get the honors of sitting down with women experts from all walks of life to discuss the ideas, opportunities, and the strategies that women can take advantage of to get ahead in our patriarchal society. So, if one of your love languages is learning how to hack patriarchal systems and structures, I invite you to join us and help move the needle. Today, I'm sitting down with Aria Leighty, the creative visionary behind Show the Fuck Up Media. Aria is a seasoned visibility strategist and community consultant. Over nearly 2 decades, Aria has hosted and produced over 1,000 networking events and built communities turned microeconomies responsible for millions of dollars in referrals among members. This dedication to intentional networking has earned her the title and nickname Networking Queen. Bringing together her extensive experience, networks, and opportunities, Aria transitioned into a media business model with Show the Fuck Up, offering visibility resources for women of color, queer folk, and underrepresented voices without the high paywall. Through in-person events, digital courses, an upcoming podcast, and their acclaimed free offering, The Plug, Show the Fuck Up gets the girls, gays, and theys on more stages, in more rooms, and featured in more press. Let's come together and offer Aria a very warm welcome. Welcome, Aria. I'm so excited to have you on today.
I'm so stoked to be here. Thank you.
This is going to be a good conversation because your brand is a little bit edgy. I love a little bit edgy. So we will get to talk about all the things and place this in an explicit section of the podcast.
Yes, I love that.
And yeah, I love it too. So I think a great place to start is outside of your bio. Tell me about your business, Show the Fuck Up Media.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. And Show the Fuck Up Media is really a media company that is focused on helping queer and BIPOC folk do exactly that. Show the fuck up in the world, use their platforms for good, step into more rooms, step onto more stages, get on more platforms, be interviewed on more podcasts, and also take up space and not have to change who they are when they enter those spaces. That's what we focus on. There is a new podcast coming under that name. We have a resource that provides opportunities for people to take more stages and get in more rooms, and that's free, called The Plug. There's a membership involved that brings visibility and intentional community, and we're doing some in-person events and working on an in-person conference. So lots of rad things and resources happening.
Yeah, you have a lot going on. Staying busy. Let's start with the importance of showing up, why you might want to show up, what the benefits are, where that backbone of your business and probably the mission, vision, and values come from.
Yeah. Show the Fuck Up is really, it's not just, visibility. It's also, again, when you're getting into those rooms, when you're using your platform, using it for good, pushing change, disrupting all of these really harmful systems that we have in place. I think that we have enough content out in the world that's just regurgitating a lot of these same colonized, whitewashed ideas, and the stuff that the dude bros taught us were like, this is how you function in a society, and this is who gets to be at the top and who gets to be professional. So that's why I really want more women and more queers and more brown and Black people to be speaking from a different perspective. There's so many of us that think that, we were just having this conversation, and we're like the only ones that think like this or function like this because we don't see that stuff out in the world. And so that's why it's so important to show up in our fullness. If we're neurospicy, if we're somebody that needs to have the explicit marker on the podcast, like, we have to show up as ourselves so that people see more people that move through the world like us, look like us, and that are doing the damn thing, so that we know, everyone knows that there's a space, a place at the table for them.
I love that. Neurospicy. I'm taking that one with me. This was actually a great segue into my next question, which the topic of the show is hacking the patriarchy. So of course we have to dive into what it looks like to be different than the patriarchy in regards to showing the fuck up. How can the world show the fuck up differently than what the patriarchy has taught us?
Yeah, I think a big thing that comes up often is like professionalism. What does it mean to be professional? I think that there's been a lot of rules of what it looks like in order to be taken seriously or to be welcome into the spaces. So even again, just showing up as your true self, whether that be the outfit that you wear, the way that you speak, all women, all brown and black people, all queers know how to code switch when they get into the space so that they can be like watered down and a little bit softer around the edges. So it's really important that we're showing the fuck up, spicy, sharp. We're not watering anything down. That in itself is already destroying the patriarchy. Anyone that told us that we had to be nice and quiet and calm and seen but not heard, like, fuck that.
I actually heard something the other day that kind of blew my mind. I actually had to go look it up, but I saw a woman on stage and she's like, my mother always told me you have to be kind, but you don't have to be nice. And I was just like, mind blown. Like I had to go look up the true definition, but it's so true. You can be kind, but you don't have to be nice. There's such a difference. And I do feel with those of us, especially those of us raised in the patriarchal society who take it on so much, we tend to be very nice.
Yes. Yeah. Which nice means sacrificing yourself and staying quiet about things. And most nice people are not kind.
I didn't think, mind blown again, because I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I would much rather be kind. I'm kind-hearted, but I'm not going to play nice, especially in a world where it's all freaking connected, right? The patriarchy has its freaking grip on every single thing that we do. I don't have time to play nice. I'm only going to be here for maybe 40, 50 years more if I'm lucky. I have shit to disrupt and things to tear down from the inside. We gotta do it boldly.
I know that you also coach professionals. So I want to look at how you might coach someone to show the fuck up when we get inside our own heads. We're not feeling like we can show up in our spicy selves and we water ourselves down. How might you coach someone to not do that?
Yeah, I think it's important to understand where that comes from. It really fucking bothers me when people are like, I've heard a different visibility strategist say, oh, get out of your comfort zone. It won't kill you. And it's actually historically, yes, it has killed brown, black, and queer people to be in their fullness or to be out of the closet or to speak their truth. So let's really honestly take a step back and look at why it's so hard, right? Like people will be like, oh my gosh, I'm so silly. I'm just stressing out over hitting post on this Instagram thing. Like, why is it so stressful? Think about all the generational trauma, all of the ways that society has conditioned you to feel this way. Like it's on purpose. They wanted us to feel nervous or scared to use our voices, to speak up, to show up, to be anything different than the world that they worked very hard to create and the different systems that they put in place. So it's really identifying it, holding space for it, understanding that it's not silly, it's there on purpose, and then really trying to figure out what does it cost the world for you not to speak up about this or to show up like this or to wave your freak flag so that other people can find you and like your important things. And since I work with entrepreneurs that are disrupting a lot of industries, it's if you don't go talk your shit on this podcast, if you don't go network in that room, if you don't go post that thing on Instagram, whatever visibility is for you, then think about the different people that are in your industry that are going to possibly be causing harm, perpetuating the same cycles over and over again. That's who's willing to show up. So you need to go take up space so the people that could be potentially harmed can find you and your amazing gifts to the world. And you can help be a part of the change that we're all envisioning.
Oh gosh, that was such an excellent point that those who are able to do harm do show up. So those that are able, mind blown again.
Let's have a counter.
Right? 1, 2. How many times can we blow our minds on this podcast?
I wish you had one of those editing tools like on radio shows where they put in like the sound.
Season 3, it's coming on.
Yeah.
All right. I know that you also are referred to as the networking queen.
Yes.
And networking and showing up go hand in hand, but they don't always have to. So in regards to networking versus showing up in regards to networking, trying to separate it by thinking about like showing up, going on the podcast, going on the stage, and then also the networking portion. It's very odd. I think about the fact that I can go on stage, I can talk to people that way, but the actual idea of networking in its maybe the dictionary meaning of networking, or in the professional world, what we've come to think of networking as, how that might be different. I don't love networking, but I do love showing up in other ways.
Yeah. Okay. All good points. I wish I would have so many thoughts on this. Yes, the reason people hate networking is because, again, the dude bros took it over and they said a specific way and they made it very masculine and transactional. The way that I define intentional networking and talk about it is building and nurturing long-term, mutually beneficial relationships. A lot of people are missing multiple pieces of that when they're walking in. They're thinking that networking is sales and marketing, which is why it feels so icky. I always tell my clients, take the sales and marketing hat off before you step into that room, put your networking and relationship building hat on and go in there to just have human to human connection. When we met, we were networking, right? Like that was networking. It didn't feel gross. It led to other things because a really solid visibility strategy begins and ends with intentional networking. Like you don't have a visibility strategy, a solid one, if that's not incorporated into it, because you start the relationships, you build it, you nurture, you show up for your people. It comes back to you, right? Like it came back to me in the form of, I get to be on your podcast and we built this relationship and now I get to speak to your audience and get in front of them. That's a beautiful thing. I'm going to bring people into your world and I've sent you different clients and stuff like that to get on your podcast and have really amazing conversations. That's how you build that. But then it doesn't end here, right? I see a lot of people go on the podcast and then they never talk to the host again. They never promote the episode. They're never doing their thing to make that a mutually beneficial exchange. They're not connecting them or introducing them to people that they should know. So it really, again, starts and ends with it. You're nurturing the relationship. If you get a negative taste in your mouth about networking, it's just because you've been approaching it wrong.
You said something that I caught on to that I want to dive a little deeper and maybe offer our listeners a little freebie somewhere in there.
Yes.
You had mentioned that networking is a part of the overall visibility strategy.
Yeah.
So what should someone include in their visibility strategy? What are the don't miss, the absolute must-haves?
There's the only must-have is building relationships, right? It's amazing to me how many times I'll be on a panel or I'll speak about visibility strategy. And the first thing that people say is, oh, but I hate Instagram. Girl, no one said anything about Instagram. Like I hate Instagram too, right? So it's building those relationships and then also finding the spaces that you absolutely love to be in and to build on that. Like the time that you are spending on Canva trying to make a graphic, or sitting on reels, like trying to point at text or do whatever the algorithm is forcing you to do, you could be taking that time and join a networking group. You could get on a podcast. You could blog. So it's really the way that you want to take your magic and how you can best communicate that to the world. And there are people that podcasts completely turn them off, but they could write all day long. So then those are the people that I'm like, hey, there's actually something called Femme-Led News. And there's like all of these different blogs that you can be a part of, right? You don't ever have to show up in that way. It's whatever lights you up. Be on your schedule and you wake up and you're like, ooh, heck yes, I have this today. And this is a great way for me to deliver my message. That's your visibility strategy. I don't care about Instagram. I don't care about algorithms. I don't care about any of that stuff. And it's a waste of time if it's not getting you excited. And not everyone is a content creator. I also have to say that there are people that are content creators and that's beautiful. And that's their whole gig and their whole job and the way that they make money. But anyone can be a networker. Everyone is. That's because we are built to build relationships. That's in our human design.
I'm going to give that a big fuck yes. Love that. We're all networkers. Oh, that was so good. I have been reading just a ton lately about the future of social media. And since everyone seems to go to social media when you talk about visibility. Let's dissect that a little. And I'm wondering what you've seen and what you're thinking when I see predictions for social media experts are saying that people are going to start to move away from social media and build their own communities.
Yes.
Yes.
As they should. As they should. Yeah. It's just getting back to basics. Social media was meant to be social. It was not meant to be this. But of course, greed and capitalism took it over. And they were like, oh my gosh, these people will be so desperate for the attention and for the likes and for the views because we got them hooked on it that they'll pay more money to compete for this. They're going to do all of these things and jump through all of these hoops. Like it really got ruined, especially over the past 4 years. Then it really went crazy and put all of this pressure on people. And I hate it because so many people have quit their businesses because they thought that they didn't have a good idea because they were relying so much on social media or rode that high of the 2020, 2021 wave and then got crashed down with it coming all down. But anyways, what I think is that we're just going to get back to the basics of building relationships. And I have been talking about this for years and nobody would listen to me. They would be like, what do I do to hack that? I'm like, fuck the algorithm. Start connecting with people. Stop treating people like leads. Stop funneling people. Stop treating people like they're a price tag. Actually build a community rather than an audience. An audience, you're performing. You're up on a stage, you're higher than them, you're speaking at them. A community is when you are involved, engaged, you're down below, communicating with them, not at them, really bringing that energy in into building a community. And it doesn't have to be like, oh, I'm building a membership and I'm doing all that kind of stuff. That is what I help with. And I love to do those things. It's really just building those reciprocal, mutually beneficial relationships, talking to your people, getting to know them, not assuming that you know everything and that you're creating all this content based on your idea. Answer questions, find out what they're struggling with, see how you can show up for them, engage with their content, right? That's a way that you can utilize social media in a social way. And then get back to basics of talking to people and the DMs in person, going to events and having those connections. Instagram, I don't think will be a thing in the next, year, but definitely in the next couple of years. It's going down. And I have been screaming it from the rooftops for so long that we can't treat people the way that we have been treating them. We can't brag on social media that you get so many leads and you make millions of dollars from your toilet seat and people pay $10,000 for 10 minutes with you. And it's just such a weird culture. And we have to get back to wanting to show up for people and build reciprocity.
Leading with how can I help is always so much more supportive. And
Yes.
I absolutely agree that that drives me nuts. The whole use this exact process on how I'm like,
Hello?
Really? Is that really working?
Yeah. And it's all the same dude bro shit. This is what I'm talking about when I say what the importance of showing up and talking our shit and speaking our truth is that there's a lot of regurgitated dude bro bullshit that's just repackaged and they put a bow or put it into a picture of a succulent and then are like, this is feminism. And it's girl, you're just perpetuating the same harmful shit. It's the same narrative. If you go onto most podcasts, if you consume most media, it's the same freaking shit over and over again. And I know that there's people listening to this that are so enraged by things that are in their industry, or they're like, am I the only one that's seeing how this is working? And that's why you need to show the fuck up and bring a new perspective, start new conversations, challenge the things that we've been taught, help the great unlearn get brought in.
So I love that because we dove into the future, what you actually think the future is, and also what we're seeing talked about.
Yeah.
Future forward. If you are looking to create a visibility strategy for yourself and you're looking future forward, and again, there are a million different ways you can show up. You can, again, build that community and network and nurture leads and meet people and do all of that. But you can also show up on Instagram if you really want to. But there's all kinds of different things now. There's podcasts, there's all the different ways. And I feel like it can be overwhelming. We all want to, we're not even we want to, we're all told that we have to do all the things. So then we attempt to do all the things, watering down the very core of it just to be able to do all the things. So how might you advise entrepreneurs that need to show the fuck up? How do they dice that? Maybe make a plan.
Yeah. First, we're going to figure out where your ideal people are, not ideal clients, but ideal people. So we're not only networking and building relationships with people that we want to sell to. That's a sales and marketing hat thing again, right? So figuring out, like, if you were building a network, if you were building a web of power partners and referral partners and people that you really connect with, and your ideal people will be ones that share your values, align with your ideas and your approach to the world, that you know are safe by your definitions. So you figure out how to plug people into this little web that you're creating, how to build relationships with those people. When you know what's important to them, then you know where they're hanging out. You know where you can find and connect with them, right? You know the rooms and the platforms that they're engaging in. So get super clear about that first. Begin to build those relationships. Anything can be a networking opportunity. It doesn't have to be a networking room. If you're super clear on your people, you might find them at a full moon circle or a gay nightclub or chilling at the pool. There's a lot of different places that you can build those relationships. So figure out where they are and then get clear on your magic mission and message. And the way that you can do that is really understand what you're here to disrupt, what lights you up, what you could talk about, what you feel is, if you could just leave somebody with one thing that you know would be like more beneficial to their life if they knew it, then that's your magic mission and message. And then figure out the way that you love to deliver it. If it makes you roll your eyes or want to puke, then that's not for you, right? Yes, it'll scare you. It'll give you butterflies, but it shouldn't completely turn your body off when you're thinking about it. And you can experiment. You can go get on a podcast and be like, nope, that was absolutely not what I wanted to do at all. But yeah, just figure out, maybe it's speaking to small groups. Maybe it's like going into different coaching programs and guest coaching. Maybe it's going to different networking groups and asking to be a sponsor or a presenter. Maybe it's just getting back to old school roots and walking around your neighborhood with flyers and meeting all of the different people. You really just have to think, if I was going to spend some time getting visible today, how could I do it in a way that feels so good? And then if you're like, ooh, speaking or podcast or whatever, that would be a dream. Then you also just know that you have a story. You are solid in that magic mission and message. And events and podcast hosts are desperate for content. They want to be having these conversations. And especially if you're bringing a different conversation and a disruptive approach, they are begging for these types of things. They don't want to be having the same regurgitated shit anymore, right? So you're doing them a favor by pitching yourself and emailing and making it spicy and making it like for them to really see what you're going to be challenging. So hopefully that answered the question.
I love this. I literally, this conversation I could have all day. I'm like, Viva Revolution. Just let's disrupt some shit. I love it. I cover a couple things before we even start to wrap it up. So I'm going to extend this a little bit longer with you. I know that, again, the topic here is hacking the patriarchy. And I know that the patriarchy affects everybody differently. So it affects women different than it does LGBTQ allies and our Black and brown friends and family. How can we be better allies overall in showing up when it's overwhelming?
So you're asking, like, how could white women show up for brown and Black people?
I mean, everything in between. Maybe that's too expansive. I mean, yeah, that is helpful because the lines get blurred, right? Because white. Like, I'm not just white, but I look white. So that
white passing.
White passing that. So we're going through all the layers today. But
there is nuance and there is privilege in different, like, I'm very brown skin, and I've had a lot of racism, and I've had a lot of microaggressions, and I've had a lot of things, but I'm still so much more privileged in walking into spaces and doing things due to my proximity to whiteness, So there's layers, but I think I'm answering your question when I'm saying that if we're truly going to embrace this revolution of showing the fuck up in our authenticity and sharing our truth and being real and burning the shit down, a lot of the shit that you hear might be really fucking uncomfortable, and the stuff that you see. And you might be, even if you think that you're very progressive, you might be clutching your pearls at a lot of the things that we're saying or doing when we enter those spaces. So I think that it's approaching it with an open mind, challenging yourself when you feel that discomfort of what's triggering about this. What is this person that's in front of me challenging? What type of biases has society really placed on me to even be comfortable in the situation? You know what I mean? There's a lot of people that are like, yeah, show the fuck up. But then it's, oh, when you're on my podcast, it's show the F up, right? You're not gonna push it. You're not gonna push it too far. Or yeah, show the fuck up, get in those rooms. But it's okay. But when brown and Black people come, loud, bold, shit talking, big ass hoops in, you know what I mean? Like when we're expressing ourselves in that way, then it might feel weird to you when you see that in those different settings. And you have to be willing to really sit with it and think like, why is this triggering me? Why is this making me uncomfortable? I've been on podcasts that have never played. And one of them was like something unfiltered. And she never used my thing because I talked about colonialism and white supremacy. And I'm like, this is filtered then, right? It's going to make you fucking uncomfortable. And it sometimes sucks, but you have to be willing to do that in order to bring the change and really disrupt some shit and learn new ways.
That's the essence of showing the fuck up, right? Like you said, authentically. Yes. And not being, we're all going to make mistakes. I always wonder how to say that. Again, the white passing, or there's so many terms for it now. Ageism. I'm old. Like all the terms. I'm always like, what is that term? I know I read it somewhere, but I can't remember it. But being at the very.
That's actually a great point too, is like, I didn't even bring in like the age part of it. It's like everything is getting challenged. So you're going to see people that are in different seasons of what I thought 40 and 50 looked like when I was 20, where I'm like, oh my God, life doesn't end at 40. You guys are still dressing so hot. You're showing up in this miniskirt to this event, or you're just starting a project at 50. Like those are other things that we have to like really unlearn on who we think belongs at the table with us, who we think belongs into this conversation. Like everything is, like I said, connected, where we really have to constantly be challenging ourselves, or when we find ourselves questioning something or being like, something about this isn't right, really dissecting it and being like, why? Who told me that this woman couldn't walk into this room presented like this? You know what I mean?
Oh, gosh. Yes. Oh, my gosh. I want to ask so many questions that skirt the edge of comfort here, because we can have the conversation, right?
Yes.
I was thinking to myself about the ideas of intentionality and what your thoughts are. Because again, you can be intentional inside yourself, such as being present, knowing what triggers you, really looking back, trying to be better. But then I think about a perfect example. I'm going to use this podcast as an example. I didn't have a single male guest in season 1. And then season 2 came around and some men were like, how would you feel about me coming on the show? And I was like, oh my gosh, brilliant. Like we have to have everybody. But then I will sit there and think about people who can talk to the topic and really looking at who I've scheduled. And I will literally say to myself, oh my gosh, this is too many white women or too many this. And then I'm like, oh, but is being that intentional now, am I perpetuating the problem? Like I question those kinds of things.
Yeah. From like a
tokenism.
No, I think I think something to know that is uncomfortable is that you're always going to be ticking somebody off when you do that. Our systems are so fucked up and things are so wrong that understandably queer and brown and Black people are always having their defenses up. So they're always, our nervous systems are always scanning things to see if it's a safe place for us to show up. So that's the way that we're surviving in this world. So that's just a thing that you have to like, people might say tokenism when you're trying to share the mic and do that kind of stuff. But if your true intention is, I want to hack the patriarchy, you can't hack it without having the perspectives of brown and Black women. You can't hack it without having the perspective of what it's like to be a trans person living in this patriarchal society. We can't do any of that stuff or burn down any of the systems unless we're hearing from everybody. And the way that a white woman would hack the patriarchy has been proven to be completely different than what brown and Black people and queer people have been fighting for and fighting against. And you'll never even know. You don't know what you don't know. And until you have those people and share the mic, invite them on the platforms, you're like, holy shit, I never even realized it because I've been living in like my little bubble of privilege or my experience only. So.
Yeah. Excellent point. Oh, okay. I do have to start wrapping us up, but I know I could have the conversation all day. It's so fascinating to me. And again, because there are so many opinions, but within that, there are so many ways to dice it and so many ways to have the conversation. I could go on forever, but looking at hacking the patriarchy, this season is about entrepreneurship. And in that, if you were advising me from a business standpoint, but we're like almost doing like a mini case study, how might you advise me on this podcast, showing the fuck up, bringing that visibility and supporting all the different voices?
Yeah, for you specifically, honestly, you're not bold enough. I don't think that you realize what magic you have with this platform and what magic you have within yourself and how needed these different things are. I think that you need to get so fucking real with yourself about like this change that you're creating and about the doors that you're opening and about the space and the rooms that you're creating and talk your shit. Everybody needs to know about this. Has to be a top 1% podcast. This has to be on billboards because the conversations that you're creating are game-changing, are life-changing. And this is the way that you're going to usher in that change. This is your magic mission and message. And so you need to be bold about it. You need to boldly ask for sponsorships. Everybody listening to this, freaking send a Raven a Venmo or something. Like send a coffee gift card. If you are listening to this and you are like, I need to get visible and I want to use some sponsorship dollars, buy an ad on this platform. Like you need to be saying this needs to be out in the world. People need to support it. People need to back it. People need to share it. People need to sponsor it and just go all in. Because I think you're downplaying how radical this is. And like meeting you at Alt Summit, we had connected first.
We did.
So that's part of a networking strategy. But you are so safe and warm and like people gravitate towards you because you make them feel good, even if you're not doing anything. I saw a lot of people just wanting to be like in your presence, want to sit by you, want to talk to you, want to have those conversations. That's such a privilege. You're going into these rooms and then you need to be like, okay, here's how you get into my world. Here's how you support me. Here's how you listen to this, because I think that you have the part down where you're giving and serving. You're not opening up for people to show the fuck up for you back.
Okay. So we got some reciprocal work to do. I love that. Yeah. And hopefully that resonates for the entrepreneurs that are listening in regards to that balance, again, the scale of giving and receiving.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of people, they're like, I give and I give when they hear reciprocity. And yeah, girl, you got to receive too.
Yeah.
You got to open it up. You got to tell people how to support you.
Yeah. Thank you. I love to end the show with the say, I ventured out on this endeavor with no real agenda. And in season 1, I did it a couple times. I don't think I did it every time. And this season, I've really enjoyed ending it with the top 3 hacks that our listeners can use in regards to whatever the topic is. So this one's showing the fuck up. So the top 3 hacks for our listeners on showing the fuck up.
Talk your shit boldly and take up space. Self-care is revolutionary. You can't show the fuck up if you're not also showing the fuck up for yourself, women. So please show the fuck up for yourself, create the boundaries, do the nice things for yourself, and just put yourself into more rooms. It's isolating as hell out when we're just behind a screen. Like, just really challenge yourself to go into a new room and a new space.
Oh, I love it. All right. For the listeners tuning in, how can they show the fuck up and find you?
Yes, you can go to showthefuckup.media. You can join the club, which is just showthefuckup.media/the club. I'm sure it'll all be in the show notes. And that's the membership where you can have access to my brand, to visibility strategy, pitch reviews, and then also have a really intentional community. Or you can join the plug, which is also on the website, where you can just plug into the best networking events. And I do hang out on Instagram, even though I have a love-hate relationship, but I love a DM. So hit me up on Instagram at Aria Leighty.
Perfect. I will put all of those in the show notes.
Yes.
Thank you so much for showing the fuck up with me today.
Yeah, I loved this conversation. Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening to today's episode. For all the juicy deets on this episode, be sure to check out our show notes or give us a holler on Instagram at Hacking the Patriarchy Podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support this podcast, don't be shy. Please share it with your friends. Sharing is caring after all. Lastly, if you'd like to lend your personal support, please take a moment to tell the world about it with a review on your favorite streaming platform. We'd be forever grateful. Tune in again soon to enjoy a brand new episode of the Hacking the Patriarchy podcast. And until next time, keep on hacking, my friends. If you've made it this far, I have one more little thing to share with you. Did you know that this isn't my only feminist endeavor? That's right, there's more. I run a media startup dedicated to providing the most current and pertinent news about women, for women, and by women. Our mission centers on delivering a platform where the latest updates regarding women-led initiatives are extensively covered, highlighting women's actions, accomplishments, perspectives, and other elements that profoundly influence women's lives and contribute to meaningful progress. I invite you to head over to femled.news to learn more.